I'm Eric Wolf, and my experience in business peer groups has changed my life, especially my membership in Vistage, one of the world's largest CEO advisory groups. I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, and a Vistage speaker on the power of marketing. This podcast is dedicated to the people who make those experiences possible, the peer group chairs. Every episode, I interview a Vistage Chair who has dedicated their time to helping entrepreneurs like me succeed. My guest today is Brant Houston, and that's pronounced with the correct way, where it's Houston, not Houston. Although Brant Houston does come to us from Houston, so if we can sort that out, Brant, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate your time today.
Hey, my pleasure, Eric.
So I'm super interested in your background. And you sent this very impressive bullet list of like all the things that you have done, and it's item number 2. We're going to talk about some stuff, but item number 2 on the list is just like sort of casually thrown in. Founded a company on 27th birthday with no money and no business knowledge / experience. Tell
So
me about that.
that caught your attention. Well, yeah, I went to the Coast Guard Academy, and I'd say my first year there gave me the courage and the grit to do something, and my last year gave me the industry knowledge. And I kind of look back at it. I don't know if you've ever heard, the bumblebee can't fly. The engineers will tell you, his body's weighs too much and his wings are not big enough, etc. But the thing is, nobody ever told the bumblebee.
Right.
So I kind of look back at being successful in business in those early days the same way. Nobody ever told me I couldn't be successful, so I was. If I were looking back at it today and advising myself, I would say that there's no way you can possibly make it, but nobody told me that.
So you what were you doing? Were you in the Coast Guard prior to starting the business? What were you doing?
Yes, I was. I got out of the Coast Guard on the day before I started the business. So,
Okay.
and I had it was in South Louisiana, and I was the law enforcement boarding officer going aboard vessels that primarily served the oil field, looking for what they were doing wrong, and they were all operating illegally back then, and most of the people running the boats, they kind of knew they were illegal, but they didn't really understand what they had to do to get legal. And I spent most of my time when I was doing that job educating them as to what they should do, even though I was writing them up with violations.
Right.
And so I thought there should be a place outside the Coast Guard, between the Coast Guard and the industry, to help them get legal, basically.
And so that's what you did.
That's what I did. Yeah. So I started with the $50. I bought a desk and a chair and put it in the third bedroom of the house. And I used some old books that the Coast Guard was throwing away, some law books and regulation books. And so that's how we started.
And on day one of being a private citizen, we just get right into it. That's amazing.
Day one, I had a bunch of 3x5 cards that of potential of all the companies that did business there, and I put them in zip code order, and I went out and started banging on doors.
That's amazing. And so what did that business ultimately lead you to? What did it end up becoming?
Well, it was very interesting. So that business, it really grew. It got to be national by the early 80s. We had, it took me 3 years to hire someone because I didn't think anybody was good enough to do it better than me. And finally, I realized that, well, maybe they couldn't do it better than me, but if they did it 90% as well, that was probably good enough, because that was better than it was when I started anyway. So once I did that, about 3 years into it, I ended up with about 15 instructors or so. And I apologize, I forgot the question.
Oh, what did the business actually end up becoming?
Oh, what it became, yeah. So in the early 80s, what happened was the oil field went bust back then, probably before you were born. And all my customers were going out of business. And at that point, we had probably 20 instructors or so. We had maybe 30 employees or so. And And I didn't know anything about business, but I knew that when there were more instructors in my classrooms than there were students, that wasn't going to last very long.
Right.
So we started experimenting to use computers to deliver part of the instruction to cut back expenses, and it actually worked. And this is before Bill Gates. So the problem was nobody had a computer. They had to come to my office, and we had these dumb terminals set up on a microcomputer. But anyway, so we were successful figuring that out, but you couldn't cut expenses enough because there was no business. So we decided, well, we thought we were in the marine training business. That's not what we do. What we really do is prepare people for professional license examinations.
Right.
And so when we look at the business that way, wow, there's a lot of people got to have a professional license exam. And we did cram courses to prepare people for exams. That's what we did. So we went from where we evolved into another division that did courses for the financial services industry. People that sell stocks, bonds, mutual funds have to have various types of certifications. And so we went there and we made a strategic decision. We're going to do no more instructor-led classes. Everything will be done using computers, books, videos. So
Neat.
when you grow the business, you grow it with instructor-led. You got to have more classrooms, more instructors. You grow it with using computers.
Becomes a lot more
Your
scalable.
computer doesn't get sick very often, and then that
No.
evolved into uh, software, and then eventually went on the web in September '97, which was very early. So by then we were about 140 employees, and so I had, over the years, had to figure out how do you go from a one-man band to, as the company grows, all the challenges of setting up structure and developing people and the management organization, all that.
So what year was it that you started the business?
I started in 1972.
And how long did you stay in the business?
Well, I started on my 27th birthday. I sold it right before my 54th. So I was in business 27 years.
Wow.
So I
Very
do things
cool.
in 27-year cycles. When I was at my first chair conference back in 2000, and the guy sitting next to me says, "Well, I can see you're going to be a chair till you're 81, because that'll be the third 27 years."
There you go. And so what was so you sold the company
Yep.
and what did so now it's basically right around the turn of the century. What did you do next?
Well, I had been a Vistage member for 8 years prior to selling, and one of the last things I did was before I sold is I paid for a year's Vistage dues going forward. Back in those days, it was called Tech.
Yep.
Now it's Vistage, and so I was still a Vistage member, and I after I sold, I had a 3-year contract that lasted about 9 months, and I like to say it was a mutual decision to leave because I wasn't having any fun, and I probably wasn't delivering a lot of value, and
Right.
I had a boss in so long I was not very employable. But the truth of the matter is they fired me, and after 24 hours I was really grateful because I was not having fun watching them destroy my baby. And so then I had no reason to get out of bed, which was after working 12, 14, 16 hours a day for 27 years, it was depressing not to have any reason to get up. So I decided that to become a Vistage Chair, and I was still a member at the time.
I love that you actually sort of graduated from a Vistage member to a Vistage chair. There are a lot of chairs that not only had never been part of Vistage, but had never even been part of a peer group in any of their former careers or anything like that. And so you actually come in with an experience that a lot of your peers as chairs don't have. What do you think that sort of did for you in starting your career as a chair?
Well, yeah, I mean, I see it. I've walked in their shoes and I understood it. I understood the processes. I mean, I think it's a huge advantage for a chair who has been a member. And I knew the value firsthand from the group, from the speakers, from just the interactions. So I just think it was a huge advantage to have that background.
What was it like for you starting your first group?
Well, it was terrible. It was a
It's
lot
a
harder than
popular
what I
opinion.
expected. Yeah, actually, the first group was an EE group, Emerging Entrepreneurs, which has
Okay.
evolved into be small business now.
Oh, okay.
So, and the EE program was having a lot of difficulty, and I was having a lot of difficulties. I had it at about 6 members, and I would add one, I would lose one, and it just wasn't working real well. I was a Vistage member still, and then one day I got a call from headquarters, and our Vistage group had been struggling a little bit because of our original chair had let our group go because he wanted to cut back. He was kind of quasi-retiring, and
Hmm.
we had another chair that didn't work real well, and the group asked him to leave. And then, so we were on another chair who was working out all right. But one night I got a call from Vistage and said, "Would you take the group over that you're a member of?" And this was 9 years to the month from when I had joined. And I said, "Well, this guy Bill he's going to work out. We're working with him. We like him." They said, "No, you don't understand. He has a medical issue and he resigned last night." So
Oh,
I took over. I took over the group that I had been a member of for 9 years, and the good news was that I knew the members and they knew me.
how
And
did how did that go in
well,
terms of
the bad
announcing that
news,
and then
bad news
being
was they knew me and I knew them.
right?
So, but it actually went well because during the time where we were having some turmoil in the group, several of the members said to me, "Hey, Brant, you're not doing anything. Why don't you take the group?" So I knew that for the most part, they would accept me. So it really did go well. There was one member of the group who had some issues about it, and he and I were close friends, but we looked at the world totally oppositely the way we ran businesses. And he thought I was going to try to make him do it my way. And I said,
Right.
"No, no, Duke, we're not going to do it my way. I want you to be successful in your goals, and we do it your way. I just want to support you in that." So once we got past that, we were good.
I know you guys just recently had Chair World.
Yeah.
We've got a chair here in Denver, Nigel Alexander, who you may or may not have met, but he had a similar experience where his chair, and he'd been in the group for I want to say more than 20 years,
Hmm.
and the chair retired, and he was like, well, maybe I'll take this group, and he went, and they coordinated it. He went to he took the chair training and he did the whole thing, and then they coordinated him to take over when the other one was retiring. And it's a very rare experience for folks to actually get to take over that group that they were a part of.
Yeah, that doesn't happen often, and it's very difficult when a chair retires. I was the best practice chair for about 6 years in this area, Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, and in the days that I was there, we were very active in transitioning groups and that type of thing. So when a chair would leave for some reason, the group is always loyal to the chair, not to Vistage.
Right.
And and if a new chair comes in to take over, it's difficult because even if a chair is not the best, the members they form a relationship and they say, "Wow, it's yeah, maybe Brant wasn't the best chair in the world, but he's my chair, and I love him." So and a new chair comes in, does it different ways, maybe even improvements, but the group is used to certain things. So it's very difficult transition, and often groups just implode during that. It's just they don't make it.
A lot of times and it's a hard thing to express to people who, if you try to explain Vistage and you try to explain what it is and what the value is, it's really hard to express how much that experience that you have as a member is defined by your chair. Because obviously Vistage is also an organization,
Yeah.
multinational, a lot of benefits to being involved with Vistage, but the experience that you get at that group level isn't always it's not 100% a Vistage experience. It's a chair experience that is sort of flavored by Vistage. And a
Yeah,
lot of
it's
people
a
don't see that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. It's a flavored by the chair and the group, and
Yeah, the
of course,
members as well.
yeah, and the members, of course, are selected by the chair, so they sometimes may reflect his or her personality, I think. But yeah, the flavor, yeah, Vistage. I view it that Vistage is the platform that I choose to put my peer group practice on. So Vistage provides the platform. They provide a world-class platform. There's nobody better.
Absolutely.
And so that's who I choose to use for my platform. But really the experience is going to be with the individual group.
Yeah,
It's not Vistage provides a brand name. They provide a lot of support. They provide, a great website, a lot of networking opportunities on the website. But it really boils down to the group in the chair.
absolutely. So now that you have spent more than a quarter century as a Vistage chair, what have you learned? What has chairing brought to you, and what have your members taught you that you either didn't know before or maybe wished you had known?
Well, I mean, I learned an enormous amount in my chair training. Actually, it was chair training back in those days was a little different, and we went for the first. We had 8 days out in San Diego, fully paid for, and the first 3 days it was on the agenda, deep personal work.
Oh wow.
I had no idea what that was, and there were 8 of us in the group. None of us knew, but after the first day, I knew. I mean, boy, they peeled the onion back, and so I understood it then, but I couldn't understand what we would do for the next 2 days because I didn't think it was possible to go any deeper. But I was wrong, and I learned an awful lot about myself and those 3 days, and was able to bring a lot of that back to the group of being vulnerable, being open, and really getting into what's important about business and life. Vistage is not all about business.
No, no,
So,
not at all.
so what I learned from my members, I think one of the things I learned was not to judge others' intent. Yeah, I had a member, the same guy, Duke, I mentioned earlier. He in a public group session, I said to him one day, Duke, you don't use a thing here in Vistage. I don't even know why you're a member. And boy, did he chew me out as to why he was a member and everything that he got out of it. And no, he didn't use it the way I did, but it was extremely valuable to him. And I learned not to judge somebody's intent based on what I see them doing.
Right. Absolutely. What was it like for you making that, and you had sort of that Vistage experience as a member being kind of the buffer between them, but you went from running a fairly large business to being to being on your own for a brief
Yeah.
time to then being a Vistage chair. How did I guess how did what are the ways that your business experience maybe didn't prepare you to be a Vistage chair?
Well, I think the hard part is having to do everything myself, which back when I had the company at where it had evolved to, I
Right.
had people doing things, and my wife worked for me at one time at the company, and so when I got out doing it on my own, I would just put things in the inbox, like if my stapler was out of staples, I'd put it in the inbox for her, and she says, "I don't think you understand. I don't do that anymore." So, I find myself shopping for staples, at Office Depot, I have to do everything myself, as opposed to I think I'm better at coming up with the ideas, and somebody else implements it.
And which
And
is something that you certainly did when you were 27, but it had been a while.
it had been a while. That's right. After I did it in the beginning, but you forget, or you get used to having help, and
Right.
so that's probably the hard thing. And it's also, as a chair, you have to recruit members, so you have to identify prospects, and you got to somehow get them to talk to you, and then you don't want to be selling them, you want to be selecting them. But so that's a whole skill set by itself, which is almost diametrically opposed to the art of chairing, the actual work. So that the work part of it, what I call the work part of it, the art of chairing or the science of chairing, that part I enjoy. The recruiting part,
The work behind the work.
yeah, the work behind the work, I don't like that, and I
Yeah.
don't care for all the administrative stuff either. So, but where it is now, I have to do everything.
And so you're currently running a CE group, and tell me about the group.
Well, the group is on the north side of Houston. There are about 14 or so chairs in the greater Houston area, and I'm the only one that said, okay, we're going to make it geographic oriented because I live about a little over an hour north of downtown Houston, and all the other groups and members are driving all over this metropolitan area, and I said, no, we're going to put a stake in the sand north of Houston. You live or work here, and that way it's a lot easier to come to meetings, or if you want to get together with members during the month, a lot easier to do because we're all in the same area, and members love that. So the group itself, it currently got a dozen members in it. We range anywhere from 12 to 16 generally, and it's more smaller business than it is typical CEOs. I mean, they're most of my members. There are some exceptions, but most of them are not real sophisticated in terms of what you might think of as a traditional CEO. But we're learning together, we're growing, and and I've got one of the problems I have right now is I got several people selling their businesses for enormous amounts of money, over the and that they've so this is huge success, and it means I'll be replacing them in the group. So
And of course, as you've come to know, the selling of the business is very bittersweet. How
absolutely.
have you how have you shared that with them about your experience and then having to come back to work for and watch them take your baby apart?
Yep. I tell my story to all of them when they're considering that, and they hear it other places too. But it's still just like I was. I thought I would survive it, and I mean, I have a member now who sold his business for, well, he was PE backed. He started it PE backed. He sold it for 950 million, and his piece of it was pretty good. I mean, it was totally life changing, and he's virtually depressed right now because because he doesn't have something that's he doesn't have the purpose, the meaning in life, and so he's struggling to find that. And has plenty of money. That's not the problem,
Right.
but that's not. At the end of the day, it's not about money.
There's certainly a big part of it that isn't, and sometimes you don't always acknowledge that. You're like, no, this is what's supposed to happen. This
Yeah,
was the thing, is that we build the business and then we exit and we get this really nice thing that's going to happen for us.
yeah,
But what does that lead you to? Folks don't always know, and it's really interesting because I've seen a lot of Vistage members go through that in my group, and it's definitely a thing. It's never the same for them once the business sells, whether they have to stay there or not. It's just never the same.
no, it's not the same when you're not the one calling the shots. It's not the same. And
Well, it has been a real pleasure getting to know you, sir. And so Brant Houston from Houston, if folks want to get in touch with you, if they have questions about joining your group, if they have questions about your experience in Vistage, et cetera, and so forth, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
well, you can get in touch with me by email. It's brantley.houston@gmail.com, or my
Awesome.
standard Vistage is brant.houston@vistagechair.com, or they could call me 504-458-1971.
All right. Got that phone the year before you started the business.
I got that phone not before I started the business, but
No,
way
19.
before I was in Vistage.
Yeah, no
They didn't
kidding.
have cell phones back before I started
No,
the
I know, I know. I'm messing with you.
probably
Thank you.
mid '90s.
Thank you so much for being my guest. I really appreciate it. Really, really good to get to know you. Thank you so much.
Well, enjoyed it so much, Eric. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Chairwaves. You can subscribe to our feed using Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your platform of choice. You can also visit chairwaves.com for more information. Chairwaves is hosted and produced by me, Eric Wolf, and to connect with me, you can visit my website at ewolf.live. That's EWOLF.live. And a disclaimer, while I love Vistage and CEO peer groups, this podcast is not owned by or affiliated with Vistage or any other peer organization. Thanks for listening.